Hello, my mimics, and welcome back to the Mimic Commentary, the most in-depth, lore-through analysis of Elden Ring, episode 118, the Selia Town of Sorcery episode. Unfortunately, last time I did this, the footage, it got bunkoed again. So I tried to do it again on the Time Traveler, and that footage wasn't that good either. So now we have two things recording the episode, so I won't lose it. That means we picked up a lot of items. So what we're going to do is we're going to retrace our steps and redo the Selia episode, because fortunately I did not fight the boss. I gave myself some notes to go over the theorizing that I thought was important, and we first started in this lost episode back at Caria Manor, because I wanted to buy Carian Retaliation from Pydia. I also wanted to buy Celestial Dew and a Larval Tear within our inventory, so they were easy to see in our recent tabs. And after you buy Pydia's inventory, he says,
I'm sorry, Your Worship, but poor Pydia has given all he has. I can't be of further use to you. Please forgive me.
So just very interesting, I think, about how when you buy out of Pydia's inventory that he's asking for forgiveness of being no more use. It gives me this idea that, and look, I guess he's cleaning the chair here. It gives me this idea that the Albinorics, as servants even to the Carians, might not be treated well. They may be treated, better than you would find them somewhere else. But, the Carians do take him as a servants, but it doesn't seem like they're getting much in the way of respect either. Since we're going into Selia, we know the Carians have a close relationship to the Selians, and since the Selians are most likely going to cast sorceries, I thought I'd pick up our Carian Retaliation. Carian Retaliation looks a lot like Thop's Barrier, which I thought was interesting in the Ash of War inventory. So what I find interesting about Thop's Barrier is that Thop's gets to this core of what sorcery is and how it's very similar to incantations, and so he creates this barrier that can deflect sorcerer's incantations, just like how the Carian magic shield excels when fighting magic and holy attacks. Just who are these knights preparing to fight? And then we could see that the icon for both of these, of Thop's Barrier and Carian Retaliation, are very similar. So it seems that Thop's Barrier is touching on this this knowledge that the Carians already have, but they keep it secret. So, maybe Thop's never getting a crown or being kicked out of the academy wasn't because he was a Bluntstone, but perhaps, maybe people within the academy did not want him sharing this information, because this is a very powerful technique. Another thing I don't think I've mentioned is this hooded woman. Who could this hooded woman be that we see in not only Raya Lucaria and Caria Manor? Who could this hooded woman be? Now, we see hooded women all over the place throughout the Lands Between. It's very much in Liurnia. We see this particular hooded woman. We find her, obviously, here. Oh, that finger scared me. Obviously here in Caria Manor. We also find her in front of Renala in the Academy. When we use our Mimic's Veil, we can turn into her frequently. And since the Carians have, it seems, their own religion with that own little church there, it's giving the idea that perhaps the hooded figure with the book is supposed to reflect some type of maybe prophetic image. When I think of women wearing hoods, we have the churches, the Chapel of Anticipation, which is tied to prophecy, with the hooded woman stretching her arm out in front of the Tarnished where we spawn in. We also find that statue within the Cliff Bottom Catacombs, where we got the Nox Mirror Helm. And the Mirror Helm is associated with this idea of thwarting the greater will and the fingers. But our other main hooded woman would be Melina, who we know is tied to this prophecy. So it gives me this idea that the hooded figure, the person who hides their identity, might be central to this Carian religion. And that's why she's venerated in her churches. That's why she's venerated in the statues all found throughout Liurnia. And right now we're also going to be going to the Church of Vows, because there's other hooded women that we need to look at before we touch on Sellia. When we finished Liurnia last time, we didn't actually do a ride-through of the entire level like we did with Limgrave. And the pathing that we're doing is not really that interesting. Running past some of the Fulgur blooms, running under this bridge, which definitely shows the age of it as being a newer bridge compared to, perhaps. Well, I wouldn't say newer, but it gives. When I was thinking of the Divine Towers, this is the same type of brickwork that we find in the Divine Towers, leading to them. So it gives me the idea that the bridges made to the Divine Towers are same as when the High Road was created. You can kind of see it over there. But that actually, on our bridges to the Divine Towers, we find hooded figures. We're also, I'm thinking, probably going to be riding through Limgrave as well to get back to Caelid. I wanted to give you all an update on how videos are going, how scripts are going. So there's the video that we're working on in the BTS, which is Tier 3 for members. That is turning out to be a kind of I would say, more of a video essay than a lore video. And it's so far, my guiding principle on it is it's a story told through tears. Oh, I guess I never was over here. Here's our little maiden in poison with a Miranda bloom. Definitely giving us some of that Miranda, Melina, Marika aspect. The title of the video, it might have a subtitle, but the title of the video is A Story Told Through Tears, and that's supposed to be evoking the larval tears, the silver tears, the Weeping Peninsula, mimic tears. And then it is the thumbnail I believe I've shown in a few videos and in the Discord. It's the picture it's Mesmer inside of the painting in Dark Souls 3. So the title of the video is A Story Told Through Tears, and the thumbnail is And the Mirror Inside of the Painting. So that's turning out to be one of those, very similar to my Neverending Story video series. However, on the flip side, I've made a lot of headway with the Night Rain video script, and partly due to kind of like a newfound confidence in what I'm presenting and how the mimic commentary actually exists, where one of my insecurities when it comes to presenting theories is that there's so much information in the game that is so exciting to talk about, and we're 100 plus episodes deep, and we're only halfway through Caelid. You know how much there is to talk about in this game, and it makes it difficult for me to be like, have I explained enough? And then the video gets too bogged down with too many details, and I feel like, the script gets bogged down with too many details, and then it's not an interesting video. So using Night Rain as a cheat to say, oh, here are the big themes that Night Rain's talking about, and then we get to talk about it in Elden Ring, and then advertising the mimic commentary as and if you want more details, watch the mimic commentary. I've been finding my stride that way in the writing. And we made it to the Church of Vows. And thinking of the hooded statues, we have these hooded statues carrying the torch, and we've been calling this the hooded Ratigan or the hoodigan statues, using a lot of prophetic power on this. But this could not be Ratigan as we know him. It could be just another one of those hooded figures. It could be similar to, put on our Mimic's Veil, hopefully it will turn into her. It could be the male equivalent of the hooded woman. Now, at the center of the Church of Vows is this statue that allows us to atone for our sins using celestial dew, using our hidden tears, which are found in and around the Eternal City. She has a crown, but she's still covering her eyes in the same way. When we think of using hoods to hide someone's identity, when Melina first interacts with us, or when we come behind Muriel and we find the statue of Keitha, Goddess of Tears, or perhaps it's a statue of Queen Lothric, or perhaps it's a statue of Velka, Goddess of Sin, whose true statue does have a hood over it. We're getting this idea of women hiding their identities and also taking on multiple identities. And who would be better at that than Marika? Because the Mimic's Veil is also known as Marika's Mischief. The other thing about the hoods is the hood that we're wearing right now. This is the hood that was worn by Roderica, who is an expatriated noble. And we could see on the back of the hood when we wear a piece of armor, like if we were to wear the scale armor, this is really tied up. It's kind of hard to see it, I guess. But when we wear something like the Clean Rot Knight armor, it really gets expanded out, and you could see all of the intrinsic details on here. How there's like a clasp of like an onyx jewel on the front. This brooch reminds me of the brooch that Renala wears. I actually think maybe we could, if we put on Renala's armor, is that the same? This one's more purpley. That one's more purpley. And that one's kind of black. But on the back we get this tree. So wearing hoods is tied to nobility and also tree imagery. So obviously we have to think about Marika. So Roderica is most likely a parallel for Marika. Melina is probably a parallel for Marika. With this Mimic's Veil going on. This hooded statue, if it's Radigan. Now, how could Radigan be a parallel to Marika? How could Radigan be a parallel to Marika? Velka, Goddess of Sin. How could she be a parallel to Marika? Is Marika a sinner? Is Marika a sinner? We'll have to find out. So let's take our ride to... Actually, will we be able to get to Liurnia or Caelid from Liurnia? Yeah, I guess we can. And while we ride back, we'll think about what we know of Sellia and what we know of the Carians. Our first introduction to the Sellians is when we met Selland. Selland sold us the Glintstone Stars spell, and Glintstone Stars tells us... Where do we have it? A sorcery of the Olivianus Conspectus, which attracts sorcerers from Sellia, town of sorcery. So at the Academy of Raya Lucaria, they are studying sorceries, including the sorceries of stars, which attracts Sellian sorcerers. Our next item that told us about the Sellians was when we went to the Witchbane ruins in the Weeping Peninsula, and we found a duplicate of Selland. After attacking her, we kind of deduce that the Selland in the Witchbane ruins is the original body, who has the ability to cast Carian Phalanx, which is the enhanced version of Glintblade Phalanx. Let's just double check that and make sure I'm right there. Glintblade Phalanx, bestowed upon Carian Knights, bestowed upon the Enchanted Carian Knights, and then she had the Carian Phalanx, which is used by Enchanted Knights. When we attacked her, she summoned those phalanxes. So it gave us a tie between Selland and the Carians because of that. But there was two Sellans. There was the Selland in the Witchbane ruins and the Selland in the Waypoint ruins. When we attacked the Selland in the Witchbane ruins, she stayed. Even when we killed her, she actually, I think, came back to life. But the Selland in the Waypoint ruins disappeared. So there's two Sellands. There was two Sellands. But one of them disappeared when we interacted with her. So that gives a little bit of the mimicry going on there. And in her imprisonment in the Witchbane ruins, we found the Ambush Shard. One of the Night Sorceries of Sellia, Town of Sorcery, launches projectile from a distance removed from the caster so as to strike the enemy from behind. This sorcery can be cast repeatedly. The Sellian sorcerers were assassins, and it's said that they often hunted their fellows. So first we know that the Sellians are attracted to the Olivianus conspectus, who study stars. Then we learn that they're assassins who hunt their fellows. The thing about assassins hunting their fellows and the night sorceries, now we have a few more connections there. Well, we get the Nox Mirror Helm, which is about committing high treason and warding off intervention of the Greater Will and its vassal fingers, one of the Eternal City's ritual implements. Nox is Latin for night, so it's one of the night spells of Sellia is a Nox spell of Sorceria, Nox spell of Sellia. In Dark Souls, when you meet, oh gosh, what's her name? Her name escapes me right now. She's the priestess that Petrus betrays. She has her two companions that follow her. Oh, her name is completely slipping my mind. But anyway, she's part of the Way of White. She's on an undead mission to go into the catacombs and find kindling. And can I go up this way? No, I cannot. There's a spirit spring over here, isn't there? I guess we gotta go down this way. But she says a prayer to you when she leaves. She says Varia Nox. And I think, if I recall correctly, that Varia Nox means fear the night. So the word Nox, the Latin for night, is being used dating back to Dark Souls 1. And it's associated with this fear, so fear the night. If we think about how night works within Elden Ring, that's when the spirits come out. That is when the Knight's Cavalry comes out. I think Margit, after he beat him, he also says fear the night. Because the hands of the Fell Omen, which is most likely the Knight's Cavalry. Ooh. It's interesting going backwards. What else about night? Oh, an important thing about night is that night doesn't mean dark. So, in Dark Souls, the Way of White doesn't like dark. Like, they're not really a big fan of the undead, the dark sign, things of that nature. They don't like things that are dark. But they say fear the night. But darkness and night are not the same thing. In Dark Souls, darkness is tied to humanity. It's tied to the abyss. These are enemies of light. Darkness is the enemy of light in this case. But it's not night. Night is just when the sun goes down. Night persists in Dark Souls due to... night is like taking over in Dark Souls kind of because of the... like the fading of the first flame, and we have, what do you call it? Oh, Gwendolyn, who has the Blades of the Dark Moon, using his illusion magic to create a false sun within Anor Londo. But he's Dark Sun Gwendolyn, and he manages the Dark Moon Blades, and the people in the Dark Moon Blades hunt down those who are in the Book of the Guilty, and the Book of the Guilty used to be owned by Velka, goddess of sin. And through some theorizing that we could do through Dark Souls, we can deduce very easily that Gwendolyn is the son of Velka. It doesn't really take much to do that theorizing. Like, you could just look at Gwendolyn's helmet, and it looks like a bird beak, and Velka is tied to the crows. And maybe ravens, but I think just crows. So Velka is tied to the Dark Moon. Not night. This is important. It's not night. Man, everybody wants something, but they can't get none of this. Jumping back into Elden Ring, we have Ranni, who secret mentor, the Snow Witch Ren of the Crone. She teaches her to fear the Dark Moon. So Velka is tied to the Dark Moon Blades. Gwendolyn, he's kind of a gender-bent moon deity who uses illusions to manipulate his surroundings. He is associated with the Dark Moons, and so is Ranni. Ranni seems to also to have this connection possibly to Saint Trina. And what we learned recently about Saint Trina is Saint Trina is an enigmatic figure. Some say she is a comely young girl. Others are sure he is a boy. So Saint Trina has this kind of gender bending aspect going on with her, which is a great parallel to Gwendolyn. Whoa, I just got some frame drops there. So the Sellians have night, the Eternal City have the Nox. It seems like the Eternal plot wants night in some way. If they want night, we can just deduce that they're enemies of day. Nightman, Nightman and Dayman from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Although we can't see the Erdtree really well from here. The Erdtree is kind of like an artificial sun. And we get that artificial sun language with the warming stone. It is said that the Erdtree was once as warm as the gentle sun and would gradually heal all that bathed in its rays. We know that the Sun Realm is long faded away. We've done a lot of our Sun Realm theorizing. If the Sun Realm was a place that was gaining its power from the sun, and then here comes the Erdtree, we know that the Erdtree from our Erdtree's great bow. In times of old, when faith and battle were hand in hand, we have this tree, this golden tree that is essentially replacing the sun. It's replacing the sun. That kind of making it easier. Like you might think, and it's turned on all. The lights are on all the time. So you might think, well, that is kind of antithetical to a plot that wants night. If our goal is eternal night, maybe, or eternal darkness, why have an Erdtree? Why have this big light bulb that's on all the time? Well, you're replacing the sun. You're replacing people who use the sun for power. You're replacing the religious symbols of the sun. You're making people forget about sun worship. And the big thing from Dark Souls is Gwyn is the Lord of Sunlight. May the sun always shine is something that Sigurd says in Dark Souls 3. So even though the sun is shining, now look at this. The moon is almost always out here. Because of the light pollution of the Erdtree, which isn't as warm as the gentle sun anymore, we are getting this kind of like it's like underpowering the sun's influence on the lands between. But this also makes me think of, is the Eternal plot really the Nox plot? Or are they two different things? Is the Nox plot nested into the Eternal plot? Because we have our, Marika the Eternal, we have finger readers who live lives eternal, we have the Eternal cities, is their plotting in service of this night, to get this night? Or is it a plot within a plot? Is the Nox plot, is the night plot just a byproduct of the Eternal plot? Or are they one and the same? Or is the Eternal plot nested in within the Nox plot? Just based on the naming conventions that I made up, the Nox plot would be nested into the Eternal plot. And the Nox plot may not be aware of the Eternal plot. So I'm thinking the Eternal plot is the larger plot at hand, and the Nox plot is a smaller, nested conspiracy that is being used to further the Eternal plot. That's just as I'm seeing it, and using some of my prophetic knowledge about the theorizing that we're going to do in the future. Actually, when we think about the Sellians hunting their own, it makes me think of the Black Knife Assassins, who are scions of the Eternal City, and the Eternal City has the Nox Mirror Helm, and they killed the Golden Lineage, including Godwyn the Golden. So, if the Black Knife Assassins have any relation to Marika, both of them, being Marika is Marika the Eternal, so we're thinking she must have ties to the Eternal City, whether it's Nokron, Noxtella, or maybe both of them. And it's Ronnie who's tied between them. Ronnie orchestrates the Night of Black Knives. Is she hunting her fellows? You know, as a Carian who's tied to the Sellians, does that mean she's hunting her fellows? And now we can follow Grace. Does that mean she's hunting her fellows just like the Sellians? Like, is her having Godwyn assassinated and her own Empyrean flesh assassinated, does that make her... Like, is there a parallel between the Black Knives and the Sellians in that way? We can see Grace really wants us to go to Selia as well. Grace is really adamant on us going in this direction. Hey, there's Selia. It's also important to know that we learn when we talk to E.G. about Blythe. Is that guy prank? When we talk to E.G. about Blythe, he makes mention that Ronnie is doing the dark path of the Empyrean. And we were talking about a few episodes ago, maybe it was the last episode, I don't remember, maybe it was 2 episodes, how the Mikkel's Lily, which talk about the Empyrean Mikkel, is, unalloyed gold, it's light, it's ascending. And Trina's Lily, which may represent Ronnie in the dark path, is descending. But that has to do with, we go back to the dark path again. The dark path is not the night path. So even if Ronnie has associations with this Nox plot and the Sellians, who may want night because of their night sorceries, she's doing the dark path, and darkness is more humanity. It's more Velka. And speaking of darkness and humanity, if we wanted to craft a Grace Mimic, which looks like a humanity sprite, we need Erdleaf from the Erdtree. So we're getting that Golden Grace, and we're getting human bone shards. And, what comes from humans? Humanity. Similar to Grace, the fetish draws ways, guiding the way, only without any sense of order. So where are we going? It wants us to go that way. And you know what? That's where Radon is. I don't know. Last time I did this, I did the same thing. It pointed in the exact same direction. Let me throw down another one. Is it going to go a different direction or same direction? Different direction. These may mean something. I have no idea. So we did a big long tangent, and we didn't even really... I stopped at the Olivianus Conspectus and the Sellians. But we need to talk about the crowns of the Academy. So, the Olivianus Conspectus has a blindfold. The Carolus Conspectus, they have a spiral, and they also look like they have lilies. Olivianus, what does Lusat have? Not Lusat. What is the Lazuli? What do they have? Looks like a flower. And the Twin Sage, nothing spectacular. But the Olivianus Conspectus begins with Lusat, and its adherents continue the study of meteors. Meteors are falling stars. They are, stars that, or they're meteors that, meteors are falling stars. They are space debris, they're rocks that break into the atmosphere and burn up. Sometimes they hit Earth. Falling stars, very important. We have Radon is the Star Scourge. So he is an enemy of the stars. I don't know if we have anything about him fighting falling stars yet. All we know about Radon is he's the Star Scourge, and he's holding Ronnie's fate. Falling stars... we have... Throughout Sellia, we've been finding a lot of katanas. Moonveil, for one, masterpiece of the Sellian swordsmith. Transient moonlight. So the Sellians have a tie to the moon, hiding the moon in some way. Hidden moon, the moon veil, or hidden under the moon. and it's transient. It's not permanent. But they also made the meteoric ore blade, katana forged from meteoric ore to dispatch life forms born from falling stars. The blade is weighty, known to deliver slashes of such ferocity that the impact is said to resemble the crash of a falling meteor. So the Sellians are drawn to the Olivianus Conspectus, and the Olivianus Conspectus is studying meteors, and falling meteors are also falling stars, and from them we can get beasts or life forms born from falling stars. One of those life forms could be the falling star beast that we found in the Sellian, the Sellian Crystal Tunnel. It's in the Sellian Crystal Tunnel, so obviously that is one of our falling star beasts. And down in Noxtella, in Angel River, outside of Noxtella, we saw a similar beast, a similar scary beast that looked like a bug, kind of multiple hands, 6 fingers, and it had similar mandibles to the falling star beast here. It also had similar mandibles to like a great dragonfly head, and a similar mandibles to like the rotten pests. So these falling stars have life forms. And some of those life forms are most likely like the Alabaster Lords. If we take a look at our meteoric ore blade again, where do we have it? The impact is said to resemble the crash of a falling meteor, and the skill is gravitas. Or originating from the Alabaster Lords, who had skin of stone, thrust the armament into ground to create a gravity well. So falling meteors should be able to create gravity wells. That is resembling the crash. And the Alabaster Lords, who have skin of stone, must be life forms born of falling stars. So you can get lords and humanoids born from falling stars, and beasts born from falling stars. And one of those lords born from a falling star taught gravitational techniques to Radon. His master was an Alabaster Lord, skin of stone. The opposite end, we have the Onyx Lords, who struck fear into people for their destructive power, being able to summon their own meteorites. And one of the Onyx Lords, this Onyx Lord that we got this from, was imprisoned in the Carian Everjail. So the Carians are obviously on the side of the Alabaster Lords. They're not on the side of the Onyx Lords. And the Sellians are studying falling stars. From the studying falling stars, we can get these lords. One of those lords can summon more falling stars. Wow. When it comes to the Academy, and it comes to stars, before we got to the Academy, we learned that the Carians knew about Erdtree seeds. Here we go. Cerulean Seed Talisman, the Erdtree is once perfect and eternal, thus it was believed the Erdtree's seeds could not exist. Then, when we get into the Academy, we learn about the Graven School Talisman depicting a school of Graven mages, which is made out of, this one shows, I think, everybody, but mostly it's the Olivianus Conspectus and the Alazali Conspectus. The Nightmare of the Academy, the primeval current is the forbidden tradition of glintstone sorceries. To those who cleave to its teachings, the act of collecting sorcerers to fashion them into seeds of the stars. It's another path of scientific inquiry. So, are these seeds of the stars? Is the Erdtree comes from a seed of the star, and maybe that's why the Sellians are interested in studying falling stars, because one of those falling stars could have created the Erdtree. And if we know anything about the Erdtree, we know that Corrin, our prophet at the Round Table Hold, he says golden order shine through you. But he also says if you give him a textbook, a prayer book that isn't tied to the Erdtree, he says that bears no lineage to the Erdtree. When we look at our spells, like Blessing's Boon or Golden Vow, which we have on, what do you call it? Our dagger. Or even more simply, we could just look at the Leyendell Knight Armor. We can see that the Elden Ring appears to be inside of the Erdtree. So, the Elden Ring also, we have to repair the Elden Ring to bring back the Golden Order. And where was I going with this? Oh yes, the telescope. During the age of the Erdtree, Carian astrology withered on the vine. The fate once written in the night skies had been fettered by the Golden Order. So if the Erdtree seed came from a falling star, And now the Erdtree, which is associated with the Elden Ring and the Golden Order, that is stopping the fate in the night skies. Could this be that the Erdtree controls fate, when it used to be that stars could control fate? We know that we have to kill Radahn, and I lit all these towers. Remember, we have to redo this. Since we have to kill Radahn because his memory has been rotted away, and he is holding back the falling stars and holding back Ranni's fate. As a Carian, who is a moon worshipper most likely, who was studied under an Alabaster Lord, he most likely would probably, maybe, release the falling stars if he had his memory. But he doesn't, so he can't. So we have to kill him. The Sellians. So who started the... The Sellians follow the Olivianus Conspectus, who was made by Lusat, as opposed to Azur, who does the Carlos Conspectus, who studies comets. And we found Azur's staff in front of another graven mass, and in there we also found a portrait of Selland. That was in the Academy. So just think back, remember we got the Azur staff, it was guarded by that page with the repeating crossbow, and there is an image of Selland there. So Selland is not associated with Sellia. Maybe she was at some point, but she's not associated with them now. And what do you call it? She's more interested in comets. She's more interested in what Azur has to teach and not Lusat. The last thing we have to talk about is obviously, speaking of fate, the bubble sorceries. Has the same sigil as the night sorceries and has a very similar sigil to the Carian sorceries. So the Carians, the Sellians, and something of the Eternals, they are using prophecies. If we think back to the Ancient Dynasty, what those types of prophecies may be, it could have been prophecies of the Erdtree. We have we're getting our winged talisman. We have the Moses statues down in the Ancient Dynasty holding their 2 tablets. And, oh, that's really good. Oh, there's Glintstone stars. So it could have been prophecies of the Erdtree to come. And if we think about this night plot that they might be doing, having prophecies of, you have to make the Erdtree so we can have our unending night, it kind of starts coming all together of like what they may have been planning for a very long time. One of the interesting things that we're seeing here with these guys is how they're ethereal, their spirits. It looks like these guys may have been... They can be invisible, but they bleed white. So it makes me think that, like we've seen in Shifa River, these guys are very similar to the ancestral followers who turned into spirits. And we're noticing that we have Academy scholars from the capital, and let's see if we find another guy. And just like from each conspectus as well. So it seems that like the Sellians, much like the mimics, the larval tier mimics, they can be anywhere. So we can't trust that anyone we see at the Academy was actually aligned with who they appeared to be just because of what they're wearing. They could be a Sellian sorcerer in disguise. This is where we picked up the red mane painting. Maybe we'll show our time traveler picking this up. It depicts our stone, black stone civilization, and it shows Redmane Castle. Here is our paintings. And now that we're getting all these together, it looks like the paintings are showing maybe a timeline of prophecy. Because they're all tied to prophecy in one way or another. So this one is tying to... This is where we're going to go to kill Radahn. Radahn is going to release the falling stars, and it's going to unlock Ranni's fate. So that's destiny. That's prophecy. It's the future that's going to happen. We also have our prophecy painting, where the prophesized tarnished will come to the chapel of anticipation. We have homing instinct, where the prophesized tarnished will come back from the dead, go on their pilgrimage, because we see our church pilgrimage, to the Erdtree, because we see our minor Erdtree. And then we also have resurrection, which shows the resurrection happening. But this resurrection is different because it shows the academy. These are two different resurrections, two different graveyards, two different destinations. Now, we went to the academy. But if we think about what resurrection is going on there, well, we have our juvenile scholar set, which is somewhere. Rebirth is asleep to them, and with each awakening, memory fades into oblivion. Cap worn by the young Academy scholars, the juveniles birth anew by the amber egg of Queen Renala, the head of Royal Lucaria Academy. Yet, their rebirth is not without imperfections, and thus they do they repeat the process, eventually becoming utterly dependent upon it. And to do this rebirth, you need larval tears, core of a creature of mimicry. So this tells me, if we're looking at the prophecy, a mimic is going to be reborn. It also tells me something about who Renala is trying to resurrect isn't who she thinks she's trying to resurrect. She's mistaken. Now we're deducing that it's her daughter, a Carian princess, that she's trying to resurrect, but it's not working. Why isn't it working? Who's she trying to resurrect? Who is someone she's trying to resurrect who might not be dead? Well, we're going to continue that theorizing when we get further into Ronnie's questline. Another thing that was interesting, we got the note from Gowry. Note given by Sage Gowry detailing the secret he promised. The town of Selia hides the source. Light 3 flames atop the candle towers to break the seal. So, we break the seal. There we go, we got a Lazuli. We break the seal and it opens the path to get to Millicent. But is that the source? Oh, just wanted to make note, there was a Miquella's Lily right here, and let me show you where the other Miquella's Lily was. So what is the source? Is it the source of the rot? Is it like the source of a conspiracy? Is it the source of night? One thing we haven't made mention is the architecture in this place is very different. It's got this black kind of stuff on the windows showing a flower. It reminds me of the Miranda flowers. It also reminds me of kind of like the infrastructure of the Wandering Mausoleums. This is very different than anywhere else we've seen the entire game. It makes me think that this place is either newer than everywhere else or older. But because of the nature of the Sellians being tied all the way back to the Ancient Dynasty and tied to the Eternal City, I'm going to place it at this is a older. Even though it might be more advanced than our typical castles. Like, so we're seeing like our Sunrealm castles, our Sunrealm Norman-style castles, which are not as fancy as the Sellian architecture. But that could just be a case of, like, forgotten knowledge. Like, no one knows how to do this type of brickwork anymore. And that's very typical within, like, fantasy and George R. R. Martin. And over here, this is where one of the seals was. I'm going to have to bring up our time traveler footage to show you what was hidden here. Okay, so while we're here, let's talk about the Sellian Sigil. I can't see it, so I'm just going to pretend we can see it. Compared to the, let's see, let me get one that I can actually look at. So the Sellian Sigil, we see that it's kind of a mirror to the Carian Sigil, except it has the throne. The throne almost looks like at the back of the throne that there's like a tree or a bird or a bug or a fish, or it might be all of those things. But I kind of see like either a tree or a bug. Okay? That's some prophetic knowledge coming in, but it looks like the Sellians know something about trees and bugs. And then we get two crosses we get a cross made of staves, an X made out of staves. The one staff looks like a typical kind of glintstone staff, and the other one maybe a crescent moon staff, but it's hard to say. Then before we start lighting our sconces, there's one more Miquella's Lily. And it was right here. Time traveler, show us the lily. Okay, time to go to the seals. So when it comes to the Miquella's Lilies here, we have to ask, are the Miquella's Lilies here because Melania's army... Melania? Did I say her name right? Yeah, Melania's army marched here? Or are the Miquella's Lilies here... Oh, I missed an item up there. Or the Miquella's Lilies here because the Sellians have faith in the Halig Tree. We know that the Albinorics have faith in the Halig Tree, and at Caria Manor there's faith in the Halig Tree. So, do the Sellians also have faith in the Halig Tree? And if so, does that, like... What does that mean for what the Halig Tree wants? If the goal is maybe this plot of like a night plot, or maybe something to do with the moon, because the Miquella's halo scythes kind of look like a moon. So it's hard to say which comes first in the faith of the Halig Tree. Since we don't find any Trina Lilies here, it makes me think that possibly the Sellians might have faith in the Halig Tree as well. Or they might not. It's hard to say. Alright, here's our first light, and that opens up the item right down here. Then, let's go to the next one. Even though I've already done the items, this episode is still an hour long in Sellia. This one opened the seal down there. Let's go pick up that item, and then we'll do the last seal. Oh, Cerulean Tear Scarab. Blue scarab worn directly on the head. Slightly increases the recovery effects flask of Cerulean Tears, but increases damage taken. These scarabs roll a clump of Cerulean Tears during their labors. So those big guys, they're not rolling up sorcerer poop, they're rolling up Cerulean Tears. So Cerulean Tears come from somewhere associated with mages. So those are Cerulean Tears that they're clumping up. Oh. Wait. Which other ones do we have? We have Cerulean Tear Scarab, Ash of War Scarab. So these guys are rolling up Ash of War, which are memories. These guys are clumps of sorceries and incantations, which are kind of like knowledge and memories. But these are rolling up Cerulean Tears. And if we look at our Blessed Dew talisman, oh, okay, so it was once thought the Blessed Sap would drip from the Erdtree from its boughs forever. But it's Blessed Dew, and this restores HP, just like our Flask of Crimson Tears. And Sacred Tears are what, you know, the chalice showed in the chalice showed in the Blessed Dew talisman is the same as the Sacred Tears that we find at the churches of America and the churches with Radigan statues. And this shows it coming from the tree, so the scarabs rolling up clumps of Cerulean Tears, these are coming from trees. So let me go up here for a second, and I'll show you what I mean. So we hit this one. This is our last one. It opens the boss gate, and it opened all three of them opens up that gate. So we're not sure which the source is. But before we continue, and then here we picked up the Staff of Loss, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So here, this is a scarab that rolled up a clump of Crimson Tears, and he rolled up a lot of Crimson Tears. So in the... See? Look at that. Refilled their Flask of Crimson Tears. So in Caelid, in the Swamp of Liurnia, are Crimson Tears, far away from the Erdtree. And if we come over here, underneath this bloom, this flower, where Melania bloomed after she broke the needle, this scarab made Cerulean Tears. See? And then we do that, and we get our... Oh, I There we go. I got our cerulean tears. So the Erdtree isn't unique in making those tears. Those tears can come from, it seems like, any powerful trees or plants. They can come from trees born from millennia. They can come from trees born of rot. Oh, that's massive. That's really massive. That's really important. So we have to keep an eye out for our cerulean scarabs. Oh, sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to spook you. All right, everybody. We're going to finish up Sellia in the next episode. We have to talk about that statue. We have to talk about this Titan. We have to talk about all the items that we picked up. The imbued sword key, the Spelldrake talisman, and the Night Comet, and the Staff of Loss. And then we have to fight the boss of this level. So Sellia will be a two-parter. All right, everybody. You know the drill. Let's do the thing.